On today's show, it's the Locked On Mavs Dallas Mavericks Schedule release prediction extravaganza. Just kidding. We're going to talk about why the Mavericks only released 80 games today and if the Mavericks have any schedule advantages on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic and this is Locked On Mavs.
How about 10 Mavericks, NBA champions? Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. Join the Raccoon Squad, be an everydayer, subscribe or follow for free. Just search Locked On Mavericks wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. But the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day and to comment anything below. Let us know in the comment section, which game are you most looking forward to on the Mavericks schedule? If you want to support the show, text us. Get text alerts from us on Mavs rumors and more. Subscribe to the subtext. Click the link in the description below or text the number. We sent out our bonus show with, on the Boomers team, the Australian national team, Josh Green, Dante Exum, and all that today. Support the show there. Joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, and contributor at Mavs.com, the prediction princess, the One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
One of my favorite days of the year. The schedule release. It's the day that, a tradition like any other. The let's predict games in March. Let's predict games in February. My favorite media content right now is, looking at, dude, I think the Mavs might go 13-6, in this stretch there in February and March. And what are we doing? Like, I even go a step further and say the strength of schedule stuff is a little like,
I mentioned that in our pre-show meeting, and you were like, "Oh, we don't know anything." It's like, oh, okay.
Because like you look at like last year, who would predict the Kings are going to be, one of the best teams in the Western Conference? So where like before the season, you're probably looking at that Kings game and you're like, all right, sweet, got the Kings there, got this team there, and it's like, all right, and kind of vice versa. If you think it's the stretch of a season is going to be super hard, and it's a team like once they get playing, then they if that team starts sucking, and you're like, okay, well that 4 months ago I thought that Golden State game was going to be good, but now they're not good this year or something. So
I had the Kings as the 10th seed before last season, and you did not have them making the top 10. So
yeah, so I would have viewed that as
bets.
like a pretty good game, for the Mavericks on the schedule.
We'll talk about the schedule. We'll talk about why the Mavericks only released 80 games, which is wild to just hear that, because they're supposed to be 82, and explain why that is because of the in-season tournament. And we'll talk about anything else notable in the schedule that we saw, the back-to-backs, this travel, the hard stretches, easy stretches with, road games, home games, all that kind of stuff. Anything else we find notable in that. So let's start with the strength of schedule that you don't believe. Oh, go ahead. What you got?
Can I ask you this question? I saw this question on Twitter today, or X, and it was circulating. I think it was Caitlin Cooper who covers the Pacers, but
yeah,
she tweeted out and was like, when you first see the schedule, what's the first thing you look for? Whether you're a fan or media or whatever it is, I think we all look at something different. What's the first thing you look at?
First thing I look for is the back-to-backs. Mavs have 13 back-to-backs. It's the lowest in the NBA. There are 10 teams with 13, 11 teams with 14, and 9 teams with 15 back-to-backs. So it's not too much lower, but only 13 back-to-backs, which is good. They've got 3 in November, 4 in December, 1 in January, 2 in February, 2 in March. So that December with 4 back-to-backs, that's pretty tough. That's what I usually look at.
Yeah, for me, I like selfishly look immediately at the games after Christmas, because I typically always go and visit family back home like the day after Christmas. And I'm like, dang it, what home games am I going to miss? But this year it's not that bad of a stretch because they have a lot of away games, which is my favorite after Christmas. But on a coverage standpoint, I always look at the end of the season, and just because there's a lot of stuff like they're typically trying really hard to do. This sounds cliche now that I'm saying it. One of two things: win or lose. And
it's not cliche; it's true.
You're either trying to win really hard.
Times.
Yeah, you're either trying to win really hard because you want to move up in the standings and secure a spot, or you're trying to lose really hard to keep a draft pick. And
which they could do this year too.
Yeah, well, here's the point to that. If they're losing at the end of this season, trying to get a draft pick might be a little difficult. 3 out of the last 5 games of the season are against Detroit, Charlotte, and Houston. So, and once again, one of or a couple of those teams could be really good this year. Detroit could take a big step or whatever it is. But if they're similar to last year and those teams are going for, a top pick in the draft, then 3 out of the last 5 games there could be, easier games to win if you're Dallas, if they suck.
Looking at the end of the season is interesting. Looking at the beginning of the season, it seems like a lot of people are pointing to that. If we just go with what we think one of the easiest stretches for the Mavericks is, just looking off the beginning, I think the beginning of the season is fairly easy for them comparatively to the rest of it. Start with San Antonio, then you get Brooklyn, then you get Memphis without John Morant, Chicago. All 4 of those teams are, they're not contenders. Then Denver, at Denver, that's a tough one. Then Charlotte, Orlando, Toronto, those teams are, middle of the pack probably too, but you don't have any back-to-backs in there, and you have one back-to-back in there, Charlotte and Orlando, and yeah, so I think the beginning of the season is a fairly easy stretch for them.
Here's the thing I don't like about the beginning of the season is 10 out of the first 16 games.
Yeah, if you stretch it
to start the season are away games, and this is coming off of a huge international trip. And that's just a lot of on the road. That's a lot of international travel. We know the big trip they're taking in the preseason. Coming back, I think I could be wrong. I think they're only playing like 1 preseason game here in the States. And then bam, season starts and 10 out of your first 16 are on the road. Like you only have 2 games out of those games that are home games. So that's just a lot of travel for the team.
The NBA is doing pretty good with those, though, that they play those 2 games in Abu Dhabi against the Timberwolves, October 5th and 7th. Then you get 2 weeks basically.
Yeah,
and
that's week 1. Yeah.
Yeah. There's 2 weeks. You think that there's one more preseason game in there. I don't know how many are going to be in there. I haven't heard anything on that, but
I think there's 4 total. I think 1's back here, but.
And so, yeah, there's 2 games in Abu Dhabi. Maybe there's 2 more that are not there, but you fit those in those 2 weeks. And then you get three other days to start the 3rd week. And then they play in San Antonio Wednesday the 25th. So you got a pretty decent amount of time between those 2 Abu Dhabi games and then your actual first game of the season. So
yeah, well, you got the Madrid game, the after the Abu Dhabi game.
Oh, that's right.
In that next week. And then, them coming back. So, it's roughly, I think it's a 10 to 12 day trip, somewhere through there, but either way, it's a big international trip. And then you come back and then you're on the road a decent amount to start the season. So, I tend to look at travel a lot more than I do opponents when I start looking at stuff. Like I look at, sometimes we talk about schedule losses. Y'all might, some of the listeners might be hear us say that sometimes during the season.
Yep.
They lose a game or like, oh, that's a schedule loss. I look at one in March 1st at Boston. That's their 4th game in 6 days, and their fourth in a row on the road. Like they start that Sunday in Indiana, off on Monday, play on Tuesday and Wednesday in Cleveland, in Toronto. Off day on Thursday, then play at Boston on Friday. That game's on ESPN. I'm telling you right now, I'm marking that as an L because your 4th game in 6 days, 4th game on that last game of the road trip. That's what I would call a schedule loss.
Schedule loss. Do the Mavericks have any advantages though? Let's talk about those, and then let's also get into the some notable games that we're interested in seeing and things like that. We'll talk about all that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has you covered with all kinds of props, odds, lines, things to bet on all throughout the season. They've got NFL right now. If you put a bet on a team to win the Super Bowl, you could win bonus bets every time they win in the regular season as well. So go check out all the odds for NFL. We might as well do the Super Bowl one. Odds to win the Super Bowl. Dallas Cowboys plus 1,300 on that one. They're behind the 49ers, the Bengals, the Bills, the Eagles, and the Chiefs. So there's only 5 teams ahead of the Cowboys if you're looking at that.
That's it?
That's the only teams ahead of them right now.
Dang, Cowboys going to the ship.
And so you can bet on them. You'll get credit all throughout the regular season if they win games as well. Go check it out. It's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get your bonus bets. Go check it out. They have all kinds of other stuff as well. NBA, NFL, all kinds of sports. Again, FanDuel.com/lockedon.
My first shot, my first make.
Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of this show, part of the Raccoon Squad, being an everydayer. We're talking about the schedule today. If you didn't listen to my post-game after the Australia versus the South Sudan game, go check that out. I put that in the feed wherever you're listening, watching this. Josh Green made his debut. Thought he looked pretty good. He's got a couple things to clean up. He's getting back in rhythm and all that. So listen to that, as well as Dante Exum. He played in that game as well. And former future Mav Matisse Thybulle hit 5 threes today. So
Sheesh.
it made me sad. It just did. We could be talking about 3 Aussies on the Dallas Mavericks team, and we're only talking about 2. But
It's pretty crazy.
Any advantages if you're looking through the Mavericks schedule? They're 16th in the NBA in miles traveled. They're going to travel 41,000 miles.
Oh,
41,739 miles total. That's 16th in the NBA. The Clippers are traveling 50,600 miles. That's the most. And the Pacers are traveling the least. They're 33,000 miles. So 8,000 miles less traveling for the Pacers because they're in the Midwest and close to all those
I was going
teams.
to say it has to be a team in the Midwest.
It's usually about that. So they're right in the middle of the pack in that. Like I said, they have the least amount of back-to-backs comparatively to everybody else. One of the things I look at that's interesting is rest advantage. Positive Residuals has this stat where how many games do you play where you have a rest advantage, where you rest for more games than the team that you're playing against. The Mavericks have 9 rest advantage games and 10 rest disadvantage games. So that's not super great. They're 20th in the NBA in total rest advantage games with 9. The Celtics have 16. 16 times the Celtics have more rest going into a game than another team. You mentioned one of them with the Mavs playing that tough stretch right before they play the Celtics on ESPN. The Kings and the Wolves have 15. A couple others have 14, but the Mavs only have 9 of those. But they've got 10 rest disadvantage games. That's 18th. Orlando has the most with 13. So they're pretty high up in the amount of rest disadvantage games. So again, another disadvantage for the Mavericks in this schedule. But it all kind of is right in the middle of the pack. Like every stat, everything that you look at with a schedule, they're all kind of right in the middle.
Yeah. Let's look at some of the positive stuff. I mentioned at the end of the season, if the Mavericks are really going for a certain seeding spot, then can't predict how good those teams are, but the Houston, Charlotte, Detroit, I don't think they're going to be the best team in the league. So if they suck again, that's a pretty good thing for them. You look at the month of January, you look at January coming out of Christmas and, they only have 5 road games in the whole month of January. They have this home stretch to where they play, 7 games in a row at home from basically January 3rd to the 15th, the middle of the month.
The start of 2024 is very good if you like to go to Dallas Mavericks home games.
Yeah. So it's like, and then they head over to California for, a short little trip over there for the Lakers and Warriors. And then they're back again for a little homestand with a couple little random away games. But that's the month that, you really want to hone in on your home record there and take care of business at home and, get back on track if you kind of went in the hole a little bit to start the season, and maybe you have a little jet lag going into the season and all of that. You got to try to make it up in that home stretch there. Also, they play Phoenix coming out of the All-Star break.
Yeah.
So that, you would assume that Dallas and Phoenix both will probably have a couple All-Stars there, but you get to play Phoenix somewhat rested, even Luka and KD and all of them, they'll at least get a couple days there to have some vacation. But just, I'm much rather play Phoenix on some rest than Phoenix on a 4th and 5 nights or something.
Let's talk about why they only released 80 games today, because I think that could be confusing for some people. They did only release 80. They're supposed to be 82 games. They will play 82 games, at least 82 games. They may play a couple more because of this new in-season tournament. We already knew before when the Mavericks tournament games were against Denver, the Clippers, the Pelicans, and the Rockets. Those are on Tuesdays and Fridays in November, basically. They're littered throughout there, but they only play 4 group games, and then whoever has the best record of those, I think they take 8 teams from across all those groups to go into the knockout round. Now, that starts at the beginning of December. December 4th is when the knockout rounds start for those teams that won the most games in their group stage. The other teams, there's 22 teams that are just kind of hanging out. What do you do? It looks like there's an 8-day stretch where they don't play any games. But what's going to happen is those 22 teams will play 2 games, one of them on the 6th, that's a Wednesday, one of them on the 9th, or one of them on the 8th, that's a Friday. So they'll play like right in the middle there. And only teams that are not in the in-season tournament will be playing on those days, which I kind of find interesting. They have 2 days of knockout rounds, a day of the losers that didn't make it there, another tournament game, the day of losers playing, and then the championship. So that stretch from like the beginning of December with this in-season tournament is going to be interesting. So the Mavericks will play 1 home game and 1 away game during that stretch on December 6th and 8th if they don't make it through to the actual in-season tournament.
But if they do, they'll be in Vegas competing for that ribbon.
Do you want them to get there?
No, I don't. No.
At all?
No, let's just like wait it out year 1. Like let's let another team take home that banner. Let's see another team celebrate it, how they celebrate it, how they set the tone, how the fan base is, what the organization does. I don't know if I don't want to be that team. I don't want to be the laughing stock of it right now first. Like let's let another team embark on that journey.
Hard disagree. Don't care. Just go for it.
Wait, you really want it?
Go for it. Why not?
Are you going to get a ring? Am I going to buy a shirt? Are you going to buy a shirt for it?
Of the two of us, who works for the team that could possibly get a ring if they do that?
I'm just casually like, I got my in-season ring here,
It's so heavy. Hits the table.
Are you buying any merch if they win it?
Oh, in the in-season tournament, like shirt or the banner,
No.
like you know how they sell the championship banners, like the replica ones that you can buy. I mean, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. You're really worried about the backlash, like the Twitter reaction to the team that wins it, because they'll be hoisting the trophy. Adam Silver will come out and hand it to him. It'll seem like this whole big thing, and you just don't want to be that team. To me, I think there could be benefit of a team getting some momentum, especially a team that needs some wins. Like this Mavericks team needs some wins. And I'm not just talking about regular season W's versus L's. I'm talking about a win in morale where this team starts to believe in themselves. And I think there's a team that could make a turnaround if they get not win it necessarily maybe, but just get far, like win a couple of games in there. They're put in situations. You put Josh Green in a couple of playoff games that he hasn't played in a while. Like that could be really beneficial for you later on down the road.
It might make Luka stay long term.
You just think that it's pointless. Like you just
I don't think it's pointless. No. Oh, no. It's not the play-in. The play-in, I'm anti.
I still cannot believe you're holding on to that one.
Oh, I'll hold on to that one. The midseason, I think it's like it's fun. Sure. I'm
How
so
do you have
fascinated.
the it's just fun for the in-season tournament, but the play-in, which has been proven now several years in a row to be good, you're like, oh, it's the worst.
You really want to have that argument of why I think it's the worst right now?
No, I don't. Coming up, let's talk about the hardest and easiest stretches for the Mavericks. Let's talk about the most notable games that we're interested in, and let's pick our favorite game. Let's say you had to go to one game this offseason or this season. Let's talk about that coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Thanks everybody for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of this show. Tomorrow, no show. But we'll continue to follow Australia and Slovenia as they go through FIBA. That starts next week, so we'll be doing actual Locked On Mavs episodes on those games. I want to do Australia. I haven't talked to you about this. I want to do Australia as well because I think they're awesome.
Good to know.
And they play on separate days. So they play on opposite days of Slovenia, which is good.
Go Boomers.
Having Locked On Boomers and Locked On Slovenia is great. I love having both. Also, the Boomers are really fun to watch. Josh Giddey on that team, Patty Mills. You've got
Ingles.
Thibault. Ingles didn't play today, but yeah, Ingles. Jock Landale twisted his ankle today, so he's not playing, which stinks. But having like Exum, Josh Green, and Giddey just passing and just throwing passes all over the place, it's pretty fun. Dyson Daniels too. That's pretty fun. National TV games. The Mavericks play 19 national TV games. They're tied for 7th with the most. This is non-NBA TV, by the way. If you see the stat,
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure it's 28, but
no, if you see the stat that says NBA TV games, I don't care. That's not national TV to me.
Whoa.
You keep your same announcers. Like this, like the Mavericks announcers will be on it. It's not a national TV. It's not different. It's not on basic cable.
How do you love the in-season tournament but hate NBA TV?
How can you make that correlation and not make the but they play, so this is non-NBA TV. They played 19 of those. So that's ESPN, TNT, ABC, and all that. Here are teams that play more than them. The Warriors play 28. If you count NBA TV, I think the Warriors play 41 national TV games. That's half their schedule. The Lakers have 27. Celtics have 25. Suns have 25. Denver has 21. Knicks have 21. Are you upset about any of those teams that have more national TV games than the Mavs?
Not at all. Nope.
Here are teams that have less. Sixers have 18. They'll be pretty interesting this year. The Clippers only have 12. Mavericks have 19. They're on way more than that because I don't think you can trust the Clippers to actually have guys to play. Here's one that kind of surprised me. The Hawks. The Hawks only have 5 national TV games. The Mavs have 19.
Yeah, I don't know really who's tuning in to watch the Hawks right now, but the Mavericks should be right up there. One of the most popular teams in the league. They have 2 of the most popular players in the entire NBA.
One of the NBA TV games the Mavs play technically against, or the Hawks play, is against the Mavs, which is called Rivals Week. Are we down for the Hawks and the Mavs being the game that the Mavericks get to play in Rivals Week, quote unquote?
What?
Yep.
Why? I mean, I'd say there's like 5 other teams that would be.
Name them.
Suns, Clippers.
Definitely.
The 2 Texas teams. Like, I would almost lean towards the 2 Texas teams more than the Suns and Clippers of just for the history aspect alone. Like, I would almost get it if it was like Rockets, Mavs, rivalry week. I'm like, okay, I kind of get it, even though it hadn't been recent history in that.
So that's one of them. The Mavericks the Rivals Week, the Mavs do play the Suns earlier in that week. So they get 2 games in this Rivals, but it's Mavs Suns, Mavs Hawks, but it's one of the games in the Rivals Week, which I found interesting. Here are the other ones. Weird. Knicks Nets, Lakers Clippers, Thunder Spurs.
They're reaching.
Chet Wemby. Like, okay. That's not really a rival, though. That's just like a fun young matchup. Celtics Heat. That one's pretty good. Kings Warriors. That one's good after their playoff series this year. Blazers Spurs. Yeah. Scoot Wemby. Okay, fine.
Yeah, sure.
Heat Knicks. That was all right.
At least they played each other in the playoffs. Like
Sixers Nuggets. You get the Embiid Jokic matchup.
Yeah.
And then Lakers Warriors. Those are the rivals.
I mean, sure. We don't have a ton of like really hardcore NBA rivals anymore though. But
let's talk about the easiest stretches, do we think? I think start of the season you're looking at. You don't play a ton of really tough teams in that. San Antonio, Brooklyn, Memphis without Ja, the Bulls. You do play the Nuggets, Charlotte, Orlando, Toronto. I think that's to start the season. You only have 1 back-to-back in that. That's a pretty easy stretch to me. Any others stand out to you?
I mean, if we're trying to project, that stretch at the beginning of the year,
I am.
You're at Utah, then Portland, Minnesota, Memphis. Ja will be back, but is he fully Ja?
Start of the calendar year. So like beginning of January, you mentioned there's 7 straight home games in that one. That one I had as well. No back-to-backs in that either. 7 straight home games, no back-to-backs. That's an easy stretch no matter who you're really playing.
Yeah. And then, to end the season, even if you want to go, further into the, past the last 5 games this season. Houston, Golden State's hard, but it's like you get Houston twice, Atlanta, Charlotte, Detroit. So that's kind of, can I do an opposite that's not like easy, but I think it's just like funny to point out?
Yeah, you're going in the middle.
Thanksgiving week here for Dallas. They get 2 extra days in LA in between the Lakers and Clippers.
Oh no.
And so they play the Lakers on that Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Oh no.
And then they play the Clippers that Saturday.
Oh no.
So little Thanksgiving celebration there.
We've got 2 schedule losses now that we've found on the schedule. And now when they have 2 days rest.
We gotta really hone in on Luka before the Clippers game. A combination of LA and Thanksgiving.
Oh boy.
Before that Saturday
boy.
game. Yeah.
Hardest stretches. The Mavericks they only play 3 4-game road trips. So there's no like long road trip stretches either. They play 3 4-game road trips. The hardest stretch to me, they play 9 games in 15 days in November. They play Milwaukee, the Clippers, the Kings, the Pelicans twice, Raptors, Orlando, Chicago, or Charlotte, Washington. But that one's a really tough one in the middle of November.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And the late February, 1st of March one that I was talking about, that little 4-game road trip. There's a back-to-back in there, a little difficult.
That one's very tough.
Some notable games real quick, some reunions or welcome backs for Dorian Finney-Smith and Jalen Brunson. Dorian comes back pretty quick. It's game 2 of the season. Home opener. He's going to get a lot of love. There'll be a lot of people there too for that home opener.
Yeah.
A lot of excitement in the building. So I'm excited for him. He deserves that, and he should get a lot of fan love.
They should just leave him. Just leave him in Dallas when you're done, Brooklyn. Like, just finish the game. Leave him in Dallas. It's fine. Like, we'll pay
Tim,
them.
Can you get on the plane? And the Knicks game last year, that was the crazy game. The Luka game, all that stuff. But Brunson didn't play, so that game, for Brunson, the 11th of January.
Yep.
That hopefully, Luka and JB's healthy for that game. They still haven't played against each other. I
know.
Maybe in New York. But Luka didn't play in that Slovenia USA game the other day. Jalen didn't play in Dallas in that crazy game. So hopefully when the Knicks come into town in January, Brunson's playing.
They haven't played against each other? They didn't play in the away game?
Unless they played against each other in New York. I could be wrong on that.
They did. But they played against each other when it was in New York.
Okay.
So yeah, but not in Dallas. So that'll be the first time. You mentioned earlier the Suns games, the Suns at Mavs, January 24th and February 22nd. Those are big ones. Those are big ones to look at.
Yeah. Big games. Denver only comes to town one time.
If you had to pick one game, let's say you can go to one game because they are stupid expensive. If you can go to one Mavericks home game this year, what are you going to?
I'm going to that Phoenix game coming out of the All-Star break. There's no, you're almost locked for no, like a scheduled rest, right? Like everybody should be playing.
Yeah.
And then just the stars in the game and all of that stuff, the rivalry, all of that. So I'd pick that one. I really do want to be there for Brunson's, first game.
That's a great one too.
In January, but and honestly, like there's not many we do this every year because we're always dying to see the rookies and seeing them in person. We always talk about, my game. Yeah, are they smaller or taller than normal? But yeah, I think Wemby's going to be first, must see. He comes to town for everybody this year. I think media and fans and everything. He comes to town to your city. You almost really need to be there to see him in person.
That was going to be my game. December 23rd, home against San Antonio. So it's right before Christmas. You got your family here in Dallas. You go to that game, and then you got Christmas Eve the next day, Christmas after that against the Suns away. Like, that's just a nice stretch of life right there if you've got family and are in Dallas. So.
Nice stretch of life.
That would be. Go see Wembanyama against Luka.
Hey fam, I know y'all are in for Christmas, but I gotta go see Wemby. So y'all hang out.
Hopefully your family would want to go with you. That's my hope. My parents would want to go with me, but but we'll see. There you go. Let us know in the comment section, which game are you most looking forward to? Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
If y'all want to schedule prediction, just shoot us on subtext, and I'll give you the exact amount of games the Mavericks will win. Peace out.
Boom.